Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. Here I have a typical rolling pin. This is a useful tool for rolling out dough in the kitchen. Now, admittedly, my wife does most of the cooking in our household, but I do occasionally find occasion to use a rolling pin. And yet, a typical rolling pin really is not designed or built for a person of my size and strength. You know, I'm sure that the engineer who designed this probably pulled up an anthropometrics chart and designed it to fit the 95th percentile of housewives. And indeed, it works fine for my wife. But when I try to use it, if I hold it normally, my knuckles stick out, probably an inch beyond the circumference of the rolling pin. And so it's hard not to drag my hands in the dough. And then if I really put much of my upper body strength into the rolling action, I can feel the handles flexing. I feel like I'm going to break this thing. So I decided that it's time for me to make a man-sized rolling pin. I started by stripping the bark off a large hardwood branch using a half hatchet. After trimming the ends to be closer to square, I set up the branch in my lathe between a 4-jaw chuck and a live center in the tailstock. Then I turned the branch down to a uniform cylinder on the lathe. While I had it on the lathe, I also sanded it and applied some canola oil to use as a finish. Next, I replaced the live center with a drill chuck in the tailstock and drilled a 1/2-inch hole through the center of the wooden cylinder. Finally, I trimmed off the base that I had clamped in the chuck, sanded the ends smooth, and applied canola oil to them as well. Then I made the center shaft of the rolling pin out of a 1/2-inch diameter steel rod. I would have liked to use type 304 stainless for this, but the only piece of stainless that I had in stock was too short, so I made do with an A36 rod and ground off the scale on my lathe. Next, I turned the handles for the rolling pin out of a smaller hardwood branch. And finally, I assembled the complete rolling pin. I had intended to secure the handles to the center shaft with cross pins, but the fit ended up being tight enough that I decided the pins were probably unnecessary. Well, my completed rolling pin seems to work well enough. Thanks for watching the Idahoan Show.